23rd, 1981, Fairfield Hospital. He comes from a long line of military service in his lineage. Tom served our country during the Vietnam conflict. Kim's dad was in the Navy. And from an early age, Scott exhibited character and integrity, and it was clear where he was going. As a young man, as a child, he had these G.I. Joe dolls and these He-Man dolls. Remember the He-Man dolls? And he and his best friend would get in the backyard and they would play with these for hours, all day long. As a matter of fact, they would dress up in uniform. They would put on uniforms and helmets and play Army. Well, I guess they play Marine. They play Marine. And as he entered kindergarten at the Sacred Heart Catholic School, so did his best friend. Sometimes I think things that happen in our life shape our character as much as genetics or circumstance. His best friend, on his way home from kindergarten, was waiting at the light for the light to change, and the light changed, meaning it was clear for him to walk across the street. At the same time, there was a high-speed police chase going on, and the criminal who was running from the police ran over Scott's best friend and took his life. From that moment on, Scott began to develop a big brother sort of persona. He took his best friend's little brother under his wing, and he protected him, he looked after him. And of all the people I spoke to, his employees, his non-commissioned officers, his friends, the one thing they all said is that you could always count on Scott Modine, that he had your back no matter what. He was the kind of a guy that would take on the bully, that would look over the guys who were getting picked on, make sure they weren't. As he went into elementary school, it was obvious that he was very athletic. He played football, basketball, hockey, but his love was baseball. He loved baseball, and Kirby Puckett was his idol. He named his first puppy after Kirby Puckett. And he played baseball all the way through, and he played third base, and he played pitcher. But his coach told me, many of his coaches told me, he understood all the positions. He knew how to play shortstop, how to back up the second baseman, how to, at third base, to run home behind the catcher. He understood the game. He was a player. But his friend Guido was his mentor. Guido is a Marine, because once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. And they spoke of military service, and Kim and Scott mentioned it many times, and Kim, quite frankly, discouraged Scott from joining the military. He said, no, you don't want to do that, you don't want to do that. And then September 11th happened. And after September 11th, Scott Modine asked nobody if he would join the military. He came home and told his mother, I'm going to serve. I'm going to be one of the people that avenges our nation. And that was his goal, and that was his reason for joining. That was why he joined. Scott Modine went to basic training at Camp Pendleton, California, and he indeed became a Marine. But not just a Marine, an infantryman. Infantryman Marine. The infantry is the backbone of our military. They are what they say on the news, the boots on the ground. When they say boots on the ground, they mean infantry boots. They mean Scott Modine's boots. And he indeed was deployed to Iraq, and he served our nation with duty, with honor, with fidelity, and with valor. Kim told me when Scott came home from his first deployment to Iraq, she and Tom noticed a marked change in their son. He was tough before he went to Iraq. He was tougher. He was strong before he went to war for our nation. He was stronger. He was loyal. He was even more so. He would come home from leave with a great big bag of laundry, and he'd drop it by the door. And after a little while of visiting, he'd say, I'm going to go hang out with my friend Chris Haynes at the Eagle's Nest. And Kim would wait till he left, and she would take his laundry to the laundromat. She didn't want to wash it in the house because you don't know how long it'd been since he'd washed those clothes. And it came to be that Scott Modine was going to be deployed again, a second time. And he was with his best friend, Chris Haynes, at the Eagle's Nest. And y'all come join us. And Chris Haynes raised a glass and said, this is for when you get back. And Scott said, if I get back. Chris pulled out a $20 bill and he tore it in half. And he wrote Scott a note and told him not to read it till he got to the sandbox. And then he gave Scott his half, and Scott signed his half, and Chris put it in his pocket. I'm sure that Chris somewhere still has that $20 bill today. Y'all know that December is a cold month in the state of Minnesota. On December the 1st, 2005, Tom and Kim had gone to Tom's brother-in-law's wake, his funeral. And they came home, they were exhausted, and they went to bed, and they were soon sound asleep. Kim heard something, she thought, then she woke up to hear a pounding on the door. She got up and she started to walk down the steps, and as she came down the steps, from the street light she could see the Marines standing at the door. She immediately ran back up the steps to wake Tom up, but Tom was fast asleep and she couldn't wake him initially. So she ran to the phone to call you. She dialed the number many times, but she kept dialing it wrong in her panic. She did not want to let the men in. The men are still standing outside in the cold, so she ran downstairs and took a picture off the wall. She ran to the door with a picture of her son. She opened the door and she said, "I've got a son. I've got a son. He's a Marine, just like you, and he's okay. I've got a son." By then, Tom was obviously awake and coming down the steps. And the sergeant said, "Ma'am, we have to talk to you." They sat Tom and Kim down on the couch. It was the first time the sergeant had to deliver news like that, and he was as emotional as they were. And he informed Kim and Tom that when an improvised explosive device had been detonated upon his position, their son, Scott Modine, lost his life, along with 9 others. Scott Modine liked to play with G.I. Joes in the backyard. He worked at Perkins. His mama was his supervisor. He could cook you some good scrambled eggs. He played third base and he pitched. If you got in a bar fight, you'd be glad he was with you. When Chris Haynes gets to heaven, Scott Modine will be standing at the gate with a $20 bill, my friend, because he always has your back. Scott Modine was a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, Semper Fi. We are fortunate enough today, Diane's son was also killed in that blast. She's from Michigan. She came here to share this moment for Scott. And Jim Woodruff is going to tell you about her son.